Hey Jay, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to chatting about the court cards. Now
Yes.
that we've gone through the ace to the 10, um, now we're going to kind of explore what each of the suits represent in the court. So, all right, let's just jump right in. So today we're going to talk about the swords and the pentacles, and we visited them before, taking the journey from the ace to the 10 and those day-to-day experiences. That's how I tend to see the difference between the ace to the 10 and then the court. So to me, ace to 10 is the day-to-day experiences or some of the smaller or more nuanced things that happen to you. And then the page knight queen king, it's you starting to mature and learning those lessons, and growing and changing and implementing them into your life. Not so much as a lesson, but then as like change behavior or a maturity in your understanding of that theme in that suit. So, how do you see the court cards versus like the ace to 10?
Yeah, I think for me, the court cards are a little bit more of the lived experience. When I look at the page to the king, I separate kind of the learnings or developmental stage of like a like a younger person, a
Mhm.
teenager, someone who's having children, kind of in that queen era, and then king and sword is kind of like after that. um, in terms of like developmental styles. My ace to 10 is a little bit more of the I hate using the word mundane, but like
That's
the
okay.
day-to-day kind of things that pop up in everyone's life, that kind of day-to-day experience, whereas the majors for me are those like life journey, soul purpose kind of
Mhm.
cards.
Yeah. The things that like change you in a way that you can never go back from almost.
Yes, exactly.
Uh, all right. And there are like and like everything, there's so many different ways to look at the cards. And the life cycles are definitely something that comes up when we are looking at the court. So the pages are typically like young adults. Knights could be like teenagers, and then the queen king are like adulthood and then later in life. So just kind of in general terms, pages, I just have some notes here. It's typically the presence of a person. So when we start to
Mm,
see the page, the knight, the queen, the king, the difference is this is typically when a lot of like people come in, or you can start to advise or give information from the cards around interpersonal relationships. We do see
mhm,
that in the ace to the 10, but this is where it's like this is either you representing that energy or somebody coming in representing that energy for you to learn from. And so even just generally, pages tend to represent like young people, right? Young people or people who are young in their experience. They might be a little bit immature. They're probably naive. It doesn't necessarily relate to age.
mhm,
Um, and they are the messengers. So they're always bringing information of some kind. The knights the knights they're in service of, right? They're going out, they're collecting information, they're going and they're fighting battles. They are figures of action, so they're taking action in some way. um, and they're facilitators of energy, so they're expressing this energy in a certain way depending on the suit that they're in. And then
mhm,
the queen is it's much that nurturing energy. And it's interesting because I have the word progressive, but I'm not really sure how that um but I guess that makes sense. Kind of like
mhm,
the alchemizing of it, nurturing energy, creation energy, receptive. And then the kings are very much energies of leadership, and they are authority in the suit that they are representing as well. So just my overall kind of view of the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. Do you look at them any differently before we dive into the swords?
no, I did just jot down some notes just to kind of help me
Mhm.
along with this today, but 100%, it was just kind of keywords that I was jotting down, but pretty much kind of the same.
Yeah.
Your queen is going to be, and you know what, and I had to explain to someone the other day who was kind of new to tarot, about, they were asking me about the emperor and the, no, was it? Yeah, it was the emperor and the high priestess, or it was the emperor and the empress. And
Mhm.
what did I think the difference was between the two? And I
Mhm.
said, well, the empress is like ultimate female energy,
Yeah.
not necessarily pertaining to sex, and the emperor is the ultimate male energy. And she said, well, what does that mean? And so I had to go into it, and I said, like, the masculine energy is more of like an actionable
Mhm.
item. It's more outward.
Mhm.
um,
Like
it's
more
your
material.
leadership, yeah, more material, strategic leadership, um, authoritative,
Mhm.
steadfast. And the female energy is your nurturing, loving, caring, emoting, kind of
Intuitive.
energies, intuitive energies. And so she was like, oh, so that kind of made sense for her. And that 100% for me focuses in on the king and the queen in this suit.
Mhm.
You know, I sometimes don't necessarily, and age, you have to take age out of it, right? So you have a very young page, a very young knight, and then you have more of a slightly older queen and a,
Mhm.
you know, king as well. But I think if you can, one way you can look at them is, that I heard someone else say is, you know, when you focus on one of the cards and the person on it, try to associate it with somebody who embodies those, so that the King of Swords is like, that's going to be my grandpa, you
Yep.
know, and the Knight of Pentacles, that's my younger cousin, kind of thing. And
Yep.
so in that sense, if you can find the keywords and the characteristics behind the court cards, as soon as you flip it over, you can kind of get the gist. If you do that, I haven't done that.
Mm.
I kind of just look at the card and what's around it, and you know what we had talked about. You had talked about in the intro. That's how I kind of use the court cards when they come up.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's interesting because I've heard that because I try not to associate people to cards just because it can change, but it's true though. Like there are certain cards that as I'm pulling, like my dad has a card, my mom has a card, and then there's certain
Hmm.
people in my life like and it's their card. And whenever I kind of pull curious about like the dynamic of the it's interesting because their card comes up. So
Hmm.
absolutely. I like that.
Yeah. And another way that I heard about using the court cards was from a woman I know who learned how to read tarot in the 70s, I think. And whenever you pull over a court card, you say you. So the
Mm,
court cards for when she learned had always represented the person who was
yeah.
having the reading done.
Which makes sense, right? Because
Hmm.
that's how I believe it should be read. Um, we are focused first, but there are like relationship dynamics that come in too.
Hmm.
Um, but it's true because the reading at the end of the day, it's for the person. It's who
Right.
it's being read, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. All right, let's jump in. So we'll start with the Page of Swords.
Hmm.
So we have the young page. The figure is androgynous. Just because they have longer hair doesn't necessarily represent like a certain type of gender. But it's a very carefree energy. There are some clouds in the background, and we can see that the tree in the bottom left is blowing. So
Hmm.
we are getting that air element because we're in the swords. It's that mental, intellectual space, communication are primary themes that we discover as we move through the suit. And here it's almost as if the wind is blowing from like left to right. And we can see it's like the clouds are parting. We're getting more clarity. There are blackbirds that are in the sky in the background, and they represent like a high intellect journey. And it's like it's something that's taking form. right? Or different perspectives as well. Because if we think of birds, they go from land to air, and they can go from here at a level that's kind of like at eye level, and then they get perspective, right? Because they're able to fly high into the sky and to like look down. There are the blue mountains that are in the background here, and those can represent truth and spirituality. And then just going back again to this intangible element of the wind, and it's like representing like winds of change.
Mhm.
So overall, when I pull this page, I typically think of somebody who has mental clarity. The preceding card to this, if we're being mindful of that as well, is the Ten of Swords, right? So it is that card of like ending a cycle. And I'm just pulling it up. I was like, oh, so this is the card that's prior to the page. And that represents like the complete ending of a mental cycle. And the page is like, I have clarity from
Mhm.
this. And there's almost like this resurrection element of it too, because in the
Okay.
10, the figure's on the ground, and now the page is like they're reinvigorated with energy. Because as we go through the swords to the end of it, it's like there's very much a depletion of energy, right? From the 7, 8, 9, 10.
Mhm.
Um, and the figure goes from standing to crouching to laying. And it's as if this page has like, okay, I have this new insight. I have this new clarity. I have all these ideas. I have the authority to speak what it is that I want to say to people. Maybe I've been holding inside, because it's communication, right? Now it's taking our thoughts and communicating it to the external world. And there's always this element of like being naive. So it might be
Mhm.
something that they're new at, or they might not be like great at, but there's this effort. And change happens through action, right? So it could be like maybe you haven't had any communication, and then all of a sudden it's like people are sharing all these things with you, or now all of a sudden you feel inclined to like share. Um, I always think this is like a good it's a turning point card. This is someone who's been challenged, and they've like picked up the sword, and they're like, hey, I'm turning challenge into opportunities, and really having this like new perspective on what's happening around them. So it's also just like to rely on your intelligence at this point.
Mhm.
As opposed to your intuition. This is more logic driven, I feel, as opposed to it like intuitively driven. Hmm. What do
Mhm.
you come up with this page?
Um, so not all of that. Um, so for me, again, looking at the page as being kind of that innocent, youthful kind of look at things, I do like the 8, 9, and 10, and then that reinvigoration. So
Mhm,
because this is kind of that younger perspective of life,
mhm,
um, and journey after the 10 is done with the 10 of swords. To me, the page of swords represents an inquisitiveness, right?
mm. Okay.
In terms of it being a little bit more from the mind. Sure, there could be some clarity, but again, for me, representing a younger perspective of things is an
Mhm.
inquisitiveness of, of thought, of perspective, of, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so you can see there, I find that the pose of this page is like a little bit whimsical. And so
Mhm.
that's where I really get that inquisitiveness um,
Perfect.
component. Yeah.
I'm just writing it down.
Hmm.
Like there's curiosity.
Yeah.
Okay, so if this were to come up in a reading,
Hmm.
and like we can start with career.
Right.
How would you?
Yeah, so for career, it could be that maybe there's new thought, or you're questioning, or there's new perspective, or you're interested in finding out about a new career opportunity, a new career
Mhm,
path. This to me is kind of represents that high school student trying to figure out like what am I going to go like college university am I going to go to? What are the prerequisites that I need?
Mhm.
Moving this over to somebody who's already working, they might want to jump fields.
Mm.
They might be curious about, even as an adult, I still see people like job shadowing. What is it
Yeah.
like in the day in the life of? Can I come visit you at work, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So for me, it's that inquisitiveness. It's that young perspective of like, I want to know what you do. I want to know what that job is all about, what that entails, or how do I switch. So is it somebody who's looking up like universities,
Yeah.
online courses, somebody who's interested in maybe taking, an energy class or
Mhm.
participating in something, you know what I mean? It's just the cogwheels turning and a bit of the curiosity, but, actually starting to find the way through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like upskill. This is someone who, to me, this is like the point of action, because
Yeah.
this card very much it gives that energy of like movement and change and decisive, and it's like, okay, I've decided to do this.
Yes.
So I absolutely agree. It's somebody who might be like starting school or finishing school, and they're
Hmm.
like, oh, now I'm done my education, now I'm
Yeah.
stepping into my career, right? So
Yeah.
there it's like that next cycle beginning. This could be somebody who in career wise does a lot of public speaking,
Hmm.
or somebody who maybe moderates like
Hmm.
large groups, or
Yeah.
somebody who's kind of stepping into that, because I always get leadership with this card.
Okay.
um I don't know why. I don't know why this went over like the other pages. Maybe because it's the sword, and so when I think of like, right, we think of battle and leading into battle and charging. um Anyways, for career, this would be maybe somebody who started something new, and you almost like need like a year in a new job, you know?
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, I'm not new anymore. I have some experience. I'm finally feeling like that I am able to, like, I have some competence in my job. I'm still kind of new at it. I'm still learning. And then maybe they're just starting to feel like they are just becoming more experienced in their role.
Hmm.
Or this is somebody who has had some type of like, or this is like a creative person,
Hmm.
right? And they're like, oh, I haven't had many ideas in a while. And it's like now all of a sudden they have all these ideas and they're like bringing them down. So for health, to me, this card is like new energy.
Hmm.
And if this were to come up in a health reading, I would say it would be somebody who has maybe been battling with their mental health. And it's like now they're starting to come out of it. They're starting to feel like they are more in synergy like with their mind,
Hmm.
or somebody who like received a whole bunch of information and they might not have understood it, right? And now they're finally like, oh, okay, I understand like my treatment plan, or I understand what I have to do next now. Because I always find like this is like precedes like a period of confusion or a period of like mental fatigue. Hmm. What about for health? What do you?
I was gonna say maybe there, yeah, it's definitely that aha moment,
Yeah.
for me. Like everything just kind of clicked into place. The thoughts, the mind, everything just kind of, and there's a bit of a plan formulating.
Yeah.
Maybe like what you said, but maybe it's somebody who is like, oh, now, that aha moment of like journaling is helpful.
Hmm. Yes.
um, maybe someone read a book and they're now putting two and two together.
Mhm.
Maybe it was, I'm just getting like biography. Maybe they read the Arnold
Mhm.
Schwarzenegger biography and now they're like, the aha moment of like, now I'm going to get reinvigorated with the gym, or like my mind body connection kind of thing. Um,
Mhm. I like that.
and in terms of like that message, maybe it was the book that came in as the message. Maybe writing things down, as a
Mhm.
message to yourself, getting it out is kind of, the purpose behind it. So
Mhm.
that's what I kind of get from health.
Mhm.
Hmm. Oh, we have another visitor.
I love it. And then in relationships, in relation,
Relation. Yeah, oh,
yeah, sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
Go.
In relationships, I feel like maybe this is coming after a period of miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you're like, oh, okay, now I understand, like, oh, we're on the same page, or oh, I understand like what I was missing in that connection. Or I get like somebody who's but like sharing information, where they might have been like holding it back. This could also be I always just kind of get like, honestly, you've probably been fighting with someone or you've
Yeah.
had a miscommunication with someone in any relationship arena, and this is like the clear, like you've had the conversation. Because the page has to be
Mm-hmm.
a bit there's a vulnerability, like, because the page is kind of like, oh, I'm not sure, but I'm going to express myself anyways. And there is like this page, they're not wearing armor, and we'll see like the knight, the
Yeah.
queen, and the king, they all wear armor, the
Yeah.
pages don't, right? So they don't have that protection, but they still have like this element of resilience because they do have some experience. That's what I get for relationships.
I get like a very like Romeo, oh Romeo kind of
Oh, I
vibe.
love
So
it.
when you were talking about relationships, I think to me this could be like you have the intention or you have just told someone that
Mhm,
you're like in love with them, kind of thing, in terms of like bringing the message, or it's
mhm,
like the aha moment of like someone being like, whoa, this is what love is.
mhm.
um Again, it could be a little bit of like um somebody who is bringing messages of sweet nothings, kind of thing, like somebody who's
I like that.
flirting, I guess you could say, in a
Yeah.
way. And in terms of maybe established relationships, this might just be, you know, like a cycle of the relationship where like communication is building back up, and maybe you hadn't experienced good communication in your relationship for some time.
And it's and I feel from a like a long term, it's almost like bringing play back to communication as
Hmm.
well,
Yeah.
because I do get this, I don't know, it's like fun and
Yeah.
carefree and like they feel good. Like
Yes.
love that. Uh, anything else? There's a bit of like a mischievous nature in this card
A little
too.
bit. A
So
little bit. Yeah,
yeah,
I can
but I
see
feel
it.
like that's each of the pages. Yeah. All right. Anything else for the page before we move on?
Um, Nothing that's coming to mind at the moment. I think that's pretty much
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I
All
know we
right.
did so much from the ace to the 10, but
I know. I think we're doing good.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. The Knight of Swords. So this is the most active knight
Hmm.
in the deck. And this knight is like charging forward. He has all of his armor on. And the armor, so this is where the page is just wearing cloth. Now we get into the court with their armor, their protection. They're ready for battle. In the back, there's the desert. So it's kind of like this barren landscape, whereas in the page, it's like lush and green. um, but in the night, it's like there's a bleakness kind of associated with this card.
Hmm.
So on the horse, I'm just going to point out the key symbols first, and then we can move on to like the overall meaning. So there's this red heart that's on the horse's reins. And although this knight is protected and armored and he has this kind of like nobility, this leads more towards like wearing your heart on your sleeve. Because it's like literally on the reins of the horse. And then again, we have those trees in the background, and we're getting that element of wind. So it could be, and it's interesting because the wind is going this like one way, and then the night is going in the opposite direction. So it's almost as if he's like charging into the wind. It could represent like forces that are like working against you or could be
Hmm.
opposing you. Um, And then again, we have some more of the blackbirds, which show up in all of the court cards for this suit. And it's messengers, freedom. On the horse, again, we have butterflies, which represent transformation, change, reincarnation. The white horse itself is symbolic in its own right, in the sense that it represents purity and power, right? If we think of horsepower, and white in the tarot always represents like innocence and purity. This knight has the war feather coming out of his helmet. That's what the red feather represents. And that gives it the element of like warrior energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other interesting thing, this is what I love about tarot, is like you can come back and you can learn something new over and over and over and over again. So I don't know if you can see it, but it appears like the knight has one gloved hand on his left hand, and then the sword that he's wearing is really like still his armor. So it shows there's like this sensitivity to him. It's this dual nature of the energy, between protection, and then still being open and receptive, because all of the elements, I also get this like hardness and the softness that are associated with it. So it's like, how can I be firm, direct, move forward, but also being like compassionate, kind, heart-centered, and in a space of like that metamorphosis with the butterfly, because it's actual physical change. So it's not like this is a caterpillar, right? So this is like you've done all the cocooning, the incubation part, and now like you've moved into this like more freedom, right? You can fly around, you can be in the air, but butterflies are also very delicate as well.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the primary symbols, and there's also like red bird, there's a lot of bird imagery, and I think that just really comes back to this being an air suit, and just the reminder of like travel, movement, communication. And it's, to me, it's also like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not real, right? Air is such a vital life force, but you can't physically see it. But it makes a lot of change, which is represented in the wind and the birds that are flying. And so I always kind of keep that in mind too, that there might be like invisible forces at play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so overall, what does this night represent for you?
Yeah, I mean, again, with it being a little bit more about the mind, and he's charging in against some forces. To me, the thing that really comes up with this card is determination.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people might get like um, a little bit of like impulse, more so for the wand, Knight of Wand, but determination, right? Like he
Mm-hmm.
is charging forward.
Mm-hmm.
He is battling the elements.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the wind could be communication from other people. It could be things from, maybe naysayers,
Mm-hmm.
and really trying to charge against it. So finding your own way in the world, moving forward. Um,
Mm-hmm.
to me, that kind of means a little bit of like grit and determination.
Doing difficult things, really.
Yeah.
Things that you like need armor to.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it's a card like, and I also get like expect the unexpected with this card.
Expect the
Um,
unexpected. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so if this were to come up in a career aspect, what would
Yeah,
that
in
be?
career aspect, this could just be somebody who is really ambitious, right? You set
Mhm.
your mind to something, you're going out and you're going to grab it. So, again, if we kind of make this card a little bit more personal to the reader, it could be that they are just like really trying to push towards something. Maybe they're in school now and they have a final goal
Mm,
ahead of them. Like if they're in their undergrad, maybe they want to achieve a PhD.
mm,
If they're new in their career, maybe they have their sights set, their heart set on a specific role, or there are those people out there who are really ambitious, and day one they want to be a manager.
yeah.
So for me, it's just that kind of go getter kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, it could be that people are, maybe it's family, maybe it's colleagues at work that are kind of being the naysayers or kind of trying to deter you from your path. But, this person is definitely, charging against it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It's true. It's kind of, and it's the opinions and the thoughts and the ideas of others.
Yeah.
And it could also be like, I don't know, you find out, people are saying things about you,
Hmm.
and then you confronting them.
Yeah.
Because I get a very confrontational element with this card. Um, but in work, this is like things are moving forward really quickly.
Yeah.
Or things are moving really fast, and just to make sure that you continue to remain strategic because he is the knight. And he had to prepare. He prepared
Hmm.
his horse, he prepared his armor. He has some type of strategy as he's moving forward, even though, that might not fully actualize, like he still has to remain on his feet and um be alert and be able to make quick decisions.
Yeah. I was
But
gonna say agile.
yeah, that's the word I
Yeah.
was looking for. Um, yeah. But I always find the knights are strategic, or they're going and they're getting information. The
Hmm.
pages bring you information. The knights go and get information. That's always how I kind of look at them.
Yeah.
So in career, it could be like you speaking up for like, I want this promotion, I want this job, or maybe a little bit of whistleblowing is happening, or just a period of like rapid activity. What about in health?
In health, this is somebody who, again, is leading the charge. They want to take control of
Mhm,
their health, moving towards betterment.
mhm,
Or this is somebody who's now going to have to face the mental battle of, a long road of whatever it is,
mhm,
illness, recovery, physical, mental disease.
mhm.
Hmm.
I agree.
Or they're in it, right? So it's not
Yeah,
necessarily that it's like it's the start, but maybe they're at the end of it.
yeah.
Yeah. What I get from this night is that, he's not weathered.
No.
He is, um, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not weathered. He looks pretty, um, unbeaten down. Like
He's fresh.
he looks like he's still in the battle. You know what I mean? Like really
Yeah.
revving to go. And it's not like the battle has
Energy.
taken, yeah, energy. That's what it
Yeah.
is. Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not depleted.
He's not depleted, right?
It's not like the end of the battle.
No, it's not.
So it could also be like, just for help, it could be somebody who maybe it's long term and they've had this period of recuperation and now
Yeah.
they finally have more energy. Now they're
Yeah.
finally like, oh, okay, I can like go and do things. I can make things
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. After maybe a period of stillness and mhm. Um, and then for relationships, how would you read this card?
For relationships, this is I mean, this is a fight. Right? And it could be a fight for reconnection. It could be a fight to maintain the relationship.
Hmm.
This could be the naysayers about the relationship that
Hmm.
you're defending. Maybe you have to defend your relationship.
Yes.
Um, maybe you are defending your position in the relationship as well. But
Hmm.
again, you see that the knight is not depleted in this.
Hmm.
This is like the I will die on the sword for whatever this is. So,
Right.
um, whatever your convictions are about your relationship, you're willing to die on the sword for it. Is what I get from this.
And he's primarily like cloaked in red. So he's
Hmm.
passionate about it,
Passion.
right? He has passion and he's fired up and he's like, it could be like going for it, right? Like going for
Hmm.
it. I do get like defending or protecting the relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything else for this card?
Um, no, no. I'm sure we could go on for another 10 minutes, but
Oh
we won't.
yeah, we can go on forever. Okay. The Queen. We get to a lot like more distinct symbolism when we get to the court as well, I
Mhm.
find. And that becomes really layered. So this is the Queen of Swords. And we can see that the trees in the background, they've settled, right? And the clouds are predominantly the lower half. So again, there's like this clearing energy. There's this clarity because gray represents confusion. But for the most part, like that's below, like that's past.
Mhm.
Um, all right. So again, we have the butterflies appearing in her crown. They're also in the base of her throne, representing like metamorphosis, transformation, reincarnation, and this like delicate but like very powerful beauty.
Mhm.
There is this red veil, which looks very similar to like the red cloth from the night. And so it's like if it's she's calm, cool, and collected, but if necessary, she'll fight, right? So she's still embodying that like really assertive,
Right.
passionate energy. And but she's just learned when to lean into that and like when to have be more poised. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
the way to
Yeah.
say that. There's a cherub in the side of her throne, which represents compassion, angels, and this very much a nod to the divine as well. And we kind of get more into like the mystical realm. There's this white and blue cloak, which could really gives us kind of like high priestess vibe. So that's tapping their intuition piece of it. It's like logic driven intuition. And
Mhm.
then there's this singular bird. So in the page and the night, there was all these birds. So represent like there might have been like a lot of people or a lot of
Right.
opinions or a lot of voices. And now there's only one bird left, which is hers. You can look at it in many different ways, but I've cleared the mental clutter or I've cleared the clutter of others' opinions or conversations. And now she stands poised, she's receiving, she has her hand open, her sword is straight up. So she's like
Mhm.
commanding and yielding. But there's a softness to kind of her edge, if that makes sense. It's like I wouldn't
Yeah.
screw with her. Like I should be super kind, but like, I don't know if you kind of stepped on her a little bit too much, she's learned those lessons of the swords and she will defend herself.
I always hear people say that she's very stern,
Yeah,
but open.
yeah.
Yeah. So almost like I guess if you wanted to associate this with somebody, it could be like if you went to school with nuns,
Mhm.
kind of thing, right? Like they're open, but they're stern.
Yes,
Um, yeah.
it's true. I
Uh,
get this like, yeah, I get that because as you're growing up and you're having experiences and it never ends, but
yeah.
she's received like she has a certain amount of like knowing of herself.
Yeah.
And she's very much able to discern between like what are the thoughts and the ideas that are imposed on me by others and what are my own thoughts, like what are my convictions type of things.
Yeah.
She's very powerful. I'm always happy to see her come up though. Mm,
Yeah. For me, this card represents, so for me, the sword is always this sort of truth, right?
mhm.
And when you
Yeah,
have someone in this kind of figure, this is, someone that you would go to for, or when it comes up for yourself, just means to me like honesty. Like you have to be honest with yourself.
yeah,
You know, honest with your convictions, honest with your thoughts, honest with your like person.
yeah.
So that's what I get when I get this card.
I agree.
Yeah.
So if this were to come up in well, it's really interesting because I have calming your power written down for this
Okay.
card. I
Yeah.
was like, I like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because the knight could be exploring, You
Right.
know, like this almost like cosmic chaos. Or
Yeah.
when you're learning about your intuition and you're like, everything's crazy and wild and what is up and down and left and right. And then the queen is like, okay, now I know. Like
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been able, I know the like thoughts from a message from like, yeah. Sorry. Anyways, okay. Career. If this were to come up in career, to me, this is a card of authority, right? Like
Hmm.
she has poise and power and
Hmm.
um so this would be to me you reaching a point. This could be probably someone who's managing people,
Yeah.
or somebody who has developed like autonomy in their role,
Yeah.
and someone who likes to be like assigned things but then be able to like manage their own kind of like their own workload.
Yeah.
This is like decisions. I always get decisions with this card. So there could be like important decisions that were made, or you making important decisions about your work. It could be a promotion, or it could be your opportunity. I used to pitch a lot. And so it could be like your opportunity to go and to pitch for funding or ideas, whatever it is, to get buy-in or to get investment. Um, this is someone whose ideas, it like very much it could be an entrepreneur whose
Hmm.
ideas have evolved into a point, that they're able to kind of present them in a way that's very strategic, and that can show impact as well, but it's still open to change because of the butterflies on this card.
Hmm. I get this as like lady boss, right? Like
Yeah.
just somebody who is able to um command a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
influence.
you definitely would maybe think of that from like a male aspect, like a masculine energy, but like she's there with the sword ready to either chop or receive. So this
Mhm,
is somebody in a position of power, either, power over their own business, power over their own autonomy in regards
mhm,
to making decisions about
mhm.
business. So, I mean, that's definitely the person who's the boss. When you think about the queens, there's always that nurturing component. So
Yeah,
I do get that, managing, supervising other people.
yes.
Um, because she has the hand out, she is receptive.
Mhm.
Um, so in terms of work, going back to the you or the person, this just kind of represents also a little bit of a status component to it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, yeah.
And then in health,
This is someone who, again, is in terms of like the decisions, they're making autonomous decisions for their health.
mhm,
This might be someone who's presented with treatment options and they
mhm,
are making the decision for themselves.
mhm.
It's that honest component that they've shared with themselves, the sort of truth, and now they are sharing it because the hand, could be receiving, but it's also, to me, sharing.
Yeah.
So this could
It,
just be somebody who is just sharing intent. Like it doesn't have to be anything crazy in terms of health,
no.
but in terms of health, this is just somebody who is assured. They have the self assurance with whatever it is that they want to do.
And I feel like they were like given tools, and now that
Hmm.
they figured out the tools, they've integrated them into their life, and it's been able to help them, um, to be able to have more command over their
Yeah,
life. Hmm. So moving back into a position of power.
yeah,
This could, I don't know why, but this could also be because I'm coming back to like the ideas and the communication too. It could be someone who like maybe is unsure how to express themselves, and they were like given tools that now they're like, okay, now I can express myself, or
hmm,
now I know if I have mental conflict, I write a letter to the person first and burn, like something like that. They've been
yeah,
able to like take those tools that they've been given, and figure out what works for them, and integrate it into their life so that they have mental clarity, but they also have a lightness because they're not, they don't have like a blocked throat chakra. Like
Right.
they're saying what they need to be saying.
I was
Um,
also going to say this is maybe I get speech from this, like somebody who has to do
yeah,
public speaking.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then in relationships.
Um, yeah. So this is someone who has had needs to have honest communication. Okay, so that's where the communication component comes out. Maybe not public speaking, but needing to have to convey honest communication.
Oh,
So this is a serious conversation in relationship. I don't know what that
mhm.
means, but it's definitely sharing, um, um, but also willing to receive, right? So there's that command, like I need to be heard, but then the handout, which is like, what's your perspective of it?
Yeah. Or this is
Uh,
like, I also get this is kind of in some type of partnership. It's like you've
hmm
come together and you've created a strategy,
hmm
right? Like you both have kind of like both sides, both ideas, both thoughts, both whatever are expressed, and it's like, oh, we're on the same page. We have a plan. We're moving forward. Because I get a very like planful energy
Yeah,
with this card.
that's
Um,
yeah. You get the clarity between the two peoples.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I forgot to point this out earlier. There's also like these moons, waxing and waning moon, on her throne, and those represent like cycles of time. Um,
There's
so
moons on her throne.
yeah, so see, there's the cherub, there's two butterflies, and then there's the
Yeah.
two moons.
Oh, yes. Look at that.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before.
I know. Well, I was just looking at her wrist, and I'm like, wait, what's on her wrist? I haven't noticed that one before.
Yeah.
Anyway, more layers to be added at a
Oh
later
my
time.
goodness.
But anyways, these are relationships. To me, this is a maturity in the relationship.
Yeah.
Gone from a period of maybe like, I don't know what we're doing to like, okay, now I know what we're doing. And these are long-term plans. I also, because these themes um of the swords, they represent weeks, right? So ish, rapidly, things that are rapidly developing, or
Yeah.
things that are more, in the next maybe like 3 months, over a couple of weeks. What is the plan?
Yeah.
Being on the same page.
In terms of relationships, this is a card for me that is you're going to seek advice
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
from I don't know, grandma. You know what I mean? Like that person,
Yeah.
whoever that person is that gives you that really good, honest advice. This could mean that that you need to go see them
Yes.
for whatever issue is at hand. They'll give you, that person that gives you like the most brutal, honest
What you
advice.
need to hear. I
Yeah.
agree. And she's looking forward is the other thing I
hmm
forgot to mention. Like she's looking forward. So she's like, okay, whereas the knight is like, okay, I've gone back, I've done whatever I needed to do that I maybe have left unsaid. And now she's like, okay, now I'm looking forward. What am I growing into? What am I moving into?
Yeah.
Final thoughts for the queen. All right. And then the last is the king.
Yeah.
And the first and foremost thing that we notice, and he's the only knight that's face forward, right? So it's this authority
Yeah.
that we get. Um, where's my little pointy thing? So the moons are coming back representing
hmm
cycles, and then there's the butterfly again showing up in the back of his throne representing transformation and change. There's the little fairy. I love this because there's like this little fairy on his shoulder there. And there's this whimsy element, right? Like there's cherubs and there's butterflies and there's fairies. So even though it's a very intellectual, logical, analytical kind of a suit, there is this element of enchantment and like divine energy. I also think fairies are a bit mischievous, so there could be a
hmm
bit of like mischievousness, or it's a supernatural element that's added to this. And then again, balance and cycles. He's wearing the red veil that we saw go from the knight to the queen. And now again into the king, which showing that while he is quiet, calm, composed, he will fight if he needs to. He's driven by passion. He's driven by clarity. The trees aren't moving. So again, we have stillness. We have
Mhm.
calm. There's two birds in the background, which could represent like the unity of the king queen energy coming together. Um, depending on how you look at hierarchy
Mhm.
in the suit. I'm just trying to think. But I always like this because there's the cloak that he's wearing is like blue and it reminds me of like intuition and emotion. But he's
Yeah.
like, but he's using, he like dips into emotion, but it's primarily driven by his ideas. Okay. What do you when you get this card? What
Yeah,
are your
I
thoughts?
definitely, that masculine energy. When I look at the king, I get, because its logic is just very strategic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So, but also mastery, right? Because he's
Yeah.
the master of communication, the master of, but I mean, you have to be strategic with how sometimes you say things. You have to be strategic in
Yeah.
how you, think of things. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
strategic when it comes to your own mind and thoughts. And so, in the 8, 9, and 10, those are, clouded thoughts, negative thoughts, anxiety. This is, somebody who is just very, you know, strategic, understands their thoughts, and, won't let things overcrowd their mind, won't,
Mm-hmm.
because there's not really anything in the sky, won't let something, overcrowd the mind, won't let, anxiety, you know, um, take the reign kind of thing.
Very much just like thoughts to action. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I get like the 8, 9, and 10 is almost like you're stewing in the thought. And
Yeah.
I feel like by the time you get to the king, you go thought, strategy, action. Like the cycle, you don't get this like paralysis almost in the
Yeah.
mind. Like he's very much can handle those types of mental load
Hmm.
things. Um, okay, so in career, this is somebody who can make decisions. This is
Yeah.
somebody who knows how to triage. This is
Yeah.
somebody who is able to be assertive, but yet still compassionate. And somebody, I get a fairness of this card.
Yeah.
Very like fair, considerate. Um, this could be a promotion, or this could be like the maturity of an idea.
Hmm.
Right? So it's like, okay, here's something that I've been working on, and then it's like, ah, okay, now it's almost tangible. Like that project or that idea or that focus or that thing that you were learning. It could be somebody who is, again, I get an educational element of this. So somebody who might have already gone to school is like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to specialize. This is someone who's like hyper focused or hyper specialized in something. Um, in order to be able to like support the continued growth of their career.
Yeah.
And I also get that this is someone who's like happy where they are because they're not looking backwards, they're not looking forwards, they're present, they're looking straight on. And there's a contentment element of like where like they've reached balance as well, with the moons in the background. So that's what I get for career.
Yeah, for career, moving along that part of education, this is the person who is doing like their executive MBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That leadership component of it. I get that they are very, they, in terms of where they are, they hold, like a status. They're like a figurehead, sort of. I can see, for me, as the queen was a little bit more give and take receptive,
Hmm.
um, you know, um, sharing. I think to me, the king is a little bit more of a knowing.
Hmm. Mm,
So when the king comes around for me, in terms of, career, we're talking about career,
yep.
is a little bit more of a, we were saying before that, like, you're new to a job, and then you get to a year, and then you are somebody who is now sharing information. We can maybe take a step back and just say that this is the person that is just really comfortable with their job,
Yeah.
the person who knows how to do things. For me, the queen is a little bit more of that resource person, and the king to
Mhm.
me is a little bit more of more of an internal, like, you just know how to do your job.
Yeah.
Um, maybe role model,
Yeah.
without being a role model. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
not being
Yeah.
in a position of supervising people, but maybe something that people want to aspire to.
Mhm.
This is somebody who can make decisions. Um, Obviously, they're the king. They make the final decision, kind of thing,
Yeah.
and they are receptive.
Yeah.
But whereas the queen is like, you have the two hands, the sword and the hand, he just has the sword, right? So for him, it's just kind of like the final command, kind of thing. So in terms of somebody who is, let's just say you're a student working on a career, this is that final knowledge of like, this is my career path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in health.
Health, again, I mean, he does have a little bit of a stern face.
Hmm.
um, this is To me, this is maybe somebody looking towards their healthcare team to help them make the decision, right? So a
Hmm.
lot of times people, you're given all this information, da 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 da, and your doctor or care provider is, you go to them to say, I've looked at everything, I know the different paths. What do you think would be the best for me? Kind of thing. You know, I've seen it where people decide that, if it's a chronic illness or, an illness that will lead to death, sometimes people run from medical treatment. Sometimes
Mm.
they want to do things organically, herbally, spiritually. And, this could just be that person finally going back to the doctor and saying, what is the best thing for me? And just getting that final answer, that final decision. This could be
Like
somebody.
trusting.
Hmm?
It's almost like trusting
Yeah,
them to
yeah,
like be like, this person has my best interest. They have the most knowledge and information.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
This is somebody who, if they're looking at themselves in terms of health, has finally the mental clarity and a plan of action to better themselves.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I get like a pre-surgery vibe with this one. I know we have the
Hmm.
swords, and to me it can represent like acupuncture or surgery. Um, but this, I don't know why this king in particular and not like the queen or the knight or the
Hmm.
queen. Um, this is someone who's prepped and ready for change.
Yeah,
And I think maybe that's why I get the surgery element with his sword up. Um, but I have the same. This is someone who's like ready to, they're present, right? They're present, like they're
yeah,
not like living in like the future of their condition or the past
yeah,
of the condition. They've accepted the reality of it. And yeah,
yeah.
not much more to add. And then relationships. So this is like a very dominant figure.
Someone's crying at me.
Aw.
Yeah.
So this is a dominant figure. This is somebody who has authority in the relationship.
Hmm.
So it could be either, it's interesting because when this comes up in relationships, it depends. I would look to the other cards because it could be like maybe someone is imposing or you are imposing your ideas, and maybe you're being a little bit too assertive, or you're maybe
Hmm.
being a little bit too like unwavering. Or it could be like maybe to adopt that energy.
Yeah.
Um, in relation, because a queen, it gives a different energy than this king. In relationship, this is someone who like knows what they want.
Yeah.
They're decisive, they know what they want. But they're also like clearly communicating it as
Hmm.
well. Um,
Yeah, there's no hiding from the truth with this card.
no,
um,
he's there.
in terms of relationship, yes. So going to the you component of it, this is somebody who is focused. Their communication is down to a pat.
Mhm.
This is someone who I do see the maybe a little bit of a power struggle in
Mhm.
terms of
Mhm.
are you holding someone up on a
Yeah.
pedestal kind of thing, or is it vice versa? And you're seeing that the relationship is unbalanced. Um, this is someone who, in a relationship, looking at this being someone else, this is someone who you revere. If it's
Mhm.
like your great grandma or your great aunt, this is someone that you can put in that status component.
Mhm.
Um, and in terms of the personal relationship component, I think in terms of being strategic, you need to maybe you feel like you've mastered communication. Maybe this could be a parent with a child. Maybe this is, spouses. Um, but, or maybe this is a situation that's coming up where you need to have that composure
Mhm.
and, uh,
To take charge almost too in
yeah,
it.
take charge and um, just have that mature communication.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
Checking anything else. This card, if it comes up in a relationship and the person is like single, I'm always kind of like, be cautious. Like there's always, I don't know, because as much as I still get a bit of like mischievous nature, maybe that's just me or the authority, but it depends on the other
Mischievous
cards.
nature or serial killer.
Yeah, like I don't know. Like he kind of, I'd be like, all right, do you, what's your exit plan? Like,
Yes.
because he does, he almost because there's authority and dominance, and then there's
Yeah.
control. So
Right.
I would be cautious. That might be something to explore with other cards.
Yeah.
All
As soon
right.
as you said that, I was like, serial killer.
Literally, it is though. All right. And that is the Swords Court.
Hmm.
Any other final thoughts or anything that came up as we were talking you want to add before we move on to the Pentacles?
Yeah, I mean, now that you said that in terms of relationship, I didn't think of it. I thought of it as like an honoring kind of thing, when you're like, oh my
Mm.
God, I love my great aunt so and so. She was so, you know, that's who I idolize.
Yeah.
But now I do kind of also in that kind of like one-on-one, romantic relationship that there could be a little bit of control,
Hmm.
a little bit of mental control
Yeah.
with the King of Swords. I don't like to really think of negative things, but then when you were like in a relationship, and I was like, serial killer, be
Yes.
careful. Yeah.
It's true. Because it
Hmm.
happens, even in friendships, it happens, right?
Yeah.
Maybe there's people who um they thrive unfortunately on those, or people who are kind of more in the page state and they're exploring, they could come across this king energy because
Yeah.
that's what you want to embody, but it's just like make sure that you are like looking and you're learning from the more
Yeah.
harmonious aspect of the card because it's a
Right.
card of balance, right? It's the moon, it's balance, balance, balance. So
But also,
fourth,
too,
yeah.
you could get the unbalanced person. And if this is representing someone else,
Yeah.
In a negative aspect, it could be like the master manipulator, right? Because it's all
Yeah.
about the thoughts, and if it's the king and if they're being very strategic, if they can strategically manipulate you, you know, that's also another concern.
Yeah.
I also, just going back quickly for the queen, is like somebody had said this is like stern communication. So like sometimes
Mm.
this, you know, because her face is so stern, um,
Yeah.
that, you know, it could mean that someone is being nasty to you in
Yeah.
terms of how they speak with you. But in
Yeah.
terms of the king in a negative context, I get that person who's manipulating you.
Yeah. I agree.
Kind of a down spiral. But let's go to
Da, da, da,
all the sunny pentacles here.
But overall, the swords, because it's blue, it's a light card.
Yeah,
So it's like there's intense energy, but there is a like an etheric vibe to it. And like there's
yeah,
fairies and butterflies.
yeah.
Like that's the other thing that I'm always like, oh, I didn't realize the fairy was there in the king.
Hmm.
At the first point. And like you give offerings to fairies, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes fairies can be manipulative and sorry, Rowena just
She woke up.
she popped in. Yeah. Hi, Chacha. All right, let me just get my pentacles notes here. All right. So the pentacles, it's our earth sign. These are the long-term themes. These are things that are happening in years or things that take us a longer time to manage, longer time to plan, and they're related to our finances and our physical body primarily.
Hmm.
But depending on the reading, the page, I'm just going to jump right in. So no, actually, the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. So there's actually very much, whereas the swords had this energy of movement and the winds of change, the pentacles are very still. They're typically standing still. There's not as much environmental factors that are happening. There's a lot of yellow. So golden cards in the tarot are typically very lucky, very
Mm.
fortunate cards.
Mm.
Here's Rowie. Okay. As long as she doesn't sleep, like lay on my notes, we're good. um, now I totally lost your train of thought. Anyway, just overall, any like high level thoughts for this court, the Pentacles
Hmm.
court, before we jump into each card.
So for me, the pentacles, I can see that they're all almost like it's like a reflective, contemplative. Everyone is still, everyone is looking at
Yeah,
the pentacle.
yeah,
So maybe they're reflecting or looking towards their finances, health, security, tangible
hmm
things,
hmm
or just being mindful of them.
hmm
Yeah.
I agree. All right, let's start with the page. Okay, so overall, let me get it here. Overall with the page, it's earth energy. So we're thinking like Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, in terms of astrology. And there is very stable. This is someone who's like reliable, patient, hardworking, and there's a consistency to the income. If we're specifically speaking of finance, this page is presenting the coin, right? So
Mhm.
my thing is pages always bring you things, right? And in this term, like this page is bringing financial opportunity. They might be bringing money, or they might be bringing different things that you need in order to like integrate into your health. So we have again this yellow, it's a golden card as all of the cards are in the pentacles. So there's a very luck, fortune, favorable energy that comes along with this entire suit. And again, we have that blue mountain in the background, and that represents like the spirituality and kind of like the ups and downs that we have as we're adventuring along the fool's journey. Because you could arguably say, in some of the imagery from the major, the fool is going up and down a mountain, right? So it's like the ups and
Mhm.
downs of life. And there is, it's very lush, it's very green, everything is in bloom. There's a garden or a field that's ready to be planted and seeded and like ready for that. This is like pre-harvest, right? This is all the hard work that you're putting in, so that at the end of the season or at the end of the cycle, you'll very much be able to tangibly um, tangibly take things
Hmm.
from all of this work that you've put in. What else do we have here? On the page, could also represent future challenges. And the garden also represents fertility. Mhm. So when this page shows up, always happy to see him or them. Um, because it means that like there's new money, there's new financial opportunity that's coming in. There's something that you've been waiting for or something that you've been working on for a long time. It's going to be showing up. And this is reward through hard work. You know,
Hmm.
sometimes it's like windfall or something very lucky happens. This is like you've worked hard for it and like here's the opportunity now. Mhm. What do you get when you see this
Yeah.
page?
So for me, I know that some other tarot decks, the Pentacles is representative of a seed. So it's
Yep.
like planting the seeds of thought, planting the seeds of hard work, planting the seed, you know what I mean? And then nurturing it so that it becomes, something.
Mhm.
For me, going back to how I look at the court cards and this being kind of like that juvenile kind of outlook of life. For me, I get this page is studious.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of messages, they could bring you early messages of hope, of investment, of whatever. But I also get diligence with this card.
Mm. I like
When I look at the page, I think of somebody who is investing in themselves to, go to school.
Mhm.
This is somebody who's paying their way through college to, and planting the seeds of their education so that they can become something, to help them financially throughout their life. This is a page who is, looking at the early, in terms of health, the early steps of, what it means to invest in your health,
Mhm.
or in terms of relationships, this is somebody who's going to put the work in a relationship. So I just get
Mhm.
that diligent, studious, um, willing to plant the seeds, and again, that long journey of a year watching things grow,
Mhm.
just having oversight over things in their life.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And it's really just from like the pentacle in general, right? It can represent the five elements, right? Because it's a very pagan symbol.
Hmm.
But it's like earth, wind, fire, water, spirit. So it's like taking all of these elements and then bringing that spiritual aspect into it again is the reminder. Because the coin, like the stars and every coin in the suit. So that remembering while we pull from the physical, the material, the mental, the emotional, we also pull from the spiritual world too,
Hmm.
which we see show up later in the cards.
Okay.
So I agree with you. Career, new job, new opportunity,
Yeah.
um, like saving money to invest, um, a raise, a bonus payout, or starting a new role, something where you like have maybe high energy but like low competence. Right,
Right.
you have some
Right.
skills but you're not like a master yet, but you're
Yeah.
like excited, right? Like you're still like you're enthusiastic, you're ready to get going. But there's potential. This card is also a potential, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like the field, is it planted or not, right? Like have the seeds been laid? Like there's nothing growing yet, so it's like what is it that there's very much this creation element, like what are you going to plant, what do you want to grow, what do you want to nurture?
This card is like me. When you talk about finances, this is the person who like puts $80 into the stock market just to see what the $80, you know what I mean? Because they just
Yeah.
don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with all of that. Yeah.
Mhm. What about for health?
For health, this is someone who's willing to do the investment into their health,
Mhm.
right? So this is somebody who is, you know, maybe they're holding up their gym membership.
Mm.
Maybe they're holding up their 10 pass to a yoga studio. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is like somebody who's like testing the waters. You know, there's that tangibility. So I feel like they've already, you know, they want to dip their toe in, but like, you know, they're new at it. So this is somebody
Mm.
who may have gotten a, you know, a cookbook.
Mhm.
Somebody who has, you know, gotten a personal trainer kind of thing, but
Mhm.
always that really like immature kind of new outlook on whatever it is. You know, you say this is a lucky card with all of the yellow. This is somebody who's looking at the future of their health
Yes.
or current state of their health, but this is not in any way a negative card.
No,
This
I
is,
don't see it either.
yeah.
Royna agrees.
Hmm.
I agree. This could also this could be fertility.
Yeah.
Someone who is like harvesting their eggs.
Hmm.
That's what this one in like a very specific health context could also come
Right.
up as. Um, but I agree with all those things for health.
Hmm.
And then in relationships, to me, this is someone who's like there's more maturity to this card to this page I would say than the other pages in the deck because they're like look at like I've prepped this garden, I'm in this you know what I mean, I'm in this space, like I have all this abundance around me, or I have this structure, because to me the earth signs are also like cards of structure.
Hmm.
Right, and it's like an offer, or this is like you might meet someone you know, at your gym class or whatever.
Right.
If you're going out, you're doing something physical, you're going out for a hike. This could be somebody who's coming in who has very earth energy. Or if it's the you in the card, it's like you getting back to being more grounded.
Hmm.
Right. So it's like, what are kind of like the nuts and bolts of those structure things that I like to do? But it could be someone to like help. It could be someone coming into maybe invest or help financially, or some type of an offer, some type of very physical, tangible offer.
I get engagement.
Oh, I never
Tangible
looked at this
offer, a
before.
ring. Yeah.
Yeah, I never
So
looked at this card in that way before.
yes, oh, the visitor.
She's eating.
I'm just waiting for the head to pop up right in front of the screen.
Yeah,
So for me,
brilliant.
in terms of relationships, I get that this person, you know, holds the tangibility of that relationship. They see
Mm,
the benefits of this relationship. This is somebody who holds their relationship, you know, with high regard. So for me,
mhm,
this is someone who is going to propose. This is someone who can start to see the long termness of a relationship.
mhm.
This is someone who, um, yeah. So in terms of like one-on-one, like romantic relationship, this is either someone's going to propose, or this is like a really good um, match. The
Yeah,
person who either you are or the person you are with really holds the other person or the relationship with high regards.
yeah. High
Um,
valuable. There's very much a like I really value this. This is very
mhm.
like cherished.
Second visitor.
Yeah,
In terms of like personal relationships, this person, again, this person really values their friendships.
yeah,
This person, uh, this person can just kind of see either they understand their role and their weight in a relationship,
hmm,
or and yeah, that's what I get for this for relationships.
hmm.
Yeah. Either that or the studious component of it where they're just like, they're looking at the other person or the relationship or partnership, and they're just kind of like studying it. That's what I kind of
Mhm.
get from it as well. Like
Mm. Ah, yes, I see
looking,
that.
yeah.
Any other thoughts for this card?
Um, so we did health, relationships, and
Yeah.
career. Yeah, no, I think that's about it. I don't see this card as any kind of like negative thing. And
No.
in terms of, how I look at the cards of, early on or immature or, young juvenile kind of thoughts on it. Um, I think when this card comes up, it's a good thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes just the last thing is like do your taxes, like make a budget, right? This could be somebody who was sitting and reviewing
Hmm.
all their things and is like, oh, I have this, but or I have more opportunity than I think. That was just kind of like my last final thought on this card.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
All
I see
right.
that.
Positive, positive card.
Hmm.
All right. And so next is the knight. And again, with all of the knights, now we're armored, right? We're protected. So all the knights, they have this element of protection. Um, and I love this because it almost looks like I know it's like a feather, but it almost looks like there's like a lettuce coming from their heads.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. So the total like we're very much being it's almost like we're being zoomed in, right? So
Hmm.
in the page, the fields they're here in the background. And now with the night, now we're like, okay, now we're standing in front of these fields. Like now we're really ready. We're really focusing on what we're planting, the strategy of what we're doing. Maybe it's how they decided to like prepare the fields for planting, or maybe they've just planted and they're like nurturing it. Um, this is a knight who is calm, cool, and collected,
Yeah.
right? They're standing still. They're like, I'm not I'm being very methodic and careful. And I'm taking my time with this because I know that this is very much long term. These things that I'm working on, um, or this information that I'm receiving, or this news that I'm delivering, it's going to have a very like long term implication. And then when it's rested, that's like more of like a measured approach.
Hmm.
I'm just seeing if I'm missing any other symbols. And I really didn't, because most of the horses are actually white, but this one is black. And I don't have anything like particularly noted for that. So I'm like, maybe that's something I'll take away and see if I come up with it. I just realized it as I was looking at it. Um, but overall, very much welcome to see this night. How about I read from the right page? And so with this night, methodical, rational, stable, reliable, patient, hard work, and a consistency to it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I get hardworking and dependable when
Yeah.
I look at this card. Yeah.
Mhm. So in a career, I would say like this is you're no longer entry level.
Hmm.
You've been promoted to like bigger things, or you could have like moved jobs. Um, or you're seeing more of the long term. Maybe you like entered into a job thinking it would be a job, and now you're seeing it as a career. You're seeing more long term potential in it.
Yeah.
Um, those are the major things. I don't get to tell like career. To me, this one is straightforward for career. What do you get from this?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of finance component of it, whereas the page might be somebody who's new to investing, like I said, like putting $8, $80 into like Bitcoin and see what happens, not really wanting to fail or like lose money.
Cautious
The
investment.
night,
Yeah.
the night is somebody who's going to do investments in, um, you know, medium low risk.
Hmm.
They want to see the long-term growth.
Hmm.
And in terms of a career, that yeah, this is someone who is in it for the long haul. They're
Hmm.
going to be, I think they feel that they're in a career that is going to have longevity.
Yeah.
It's not something that you're just going to hop in and out of. Um, maybe financially, this is not the golden handcuffs kind of
Mhm.
thing. This is more of, maybe the benefits are really good. Maybe they're
Mhm.
paying into stock options for you so you don't have to do that.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a good pension. Maybe the benefits are really good. So this is somebody who, in terms of their career, is in it for the long haul.
Mhm.
And maybe their work ethic is just very like methodical, diligent, hardworking.
Mhm. And they might have more opportunity to impact change, right?
Yeah,
Because it's like to me, this is a card of opportunity.
yeah,
And there's because the fields they're open, right? It's like whatever, like you can plant whatever you want in them. Who
yeah.
knows? Like there's this unknowingness that goes along with it too. Whereas sometimes like the queen and king, they're more mature. They're like, these are the structures, these are the rules, this is what we're doing, this is how we do this. Whereas this knight, there's still this element of like inspired idea and strategy
Mhm.
that maybe you're bringing from one place to another. Um, and there's still there's a receptivity to this card, right? Like people are going to be like more open to like receiving your information, or you're more open to like new ways of looking at things, or trimming your budget, looking at it in a new way, or found like it's almost like found money, like if that makes sense.
Um, it does make sense. It does make
Hmm.
sense. I mean, um, I'm looking at the horse as a tool.
Mm,
Maybe the horse, maybe they just tilled the land,
mm,
which, that could be, obviously the harvested would be where you would get your money from.
yeah.
And so I do get a little bit of that hard work from it. In terms of found money, I mean, maybe they found, you know, gemstones or something in the ground, or like maybe they found,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, dinosaur bones or millions of dollars. You know what I mean? So I do get a
Yeah.
little bit of like that foundness, but I do feel like the foundness, what like it didn't just like fall into your lap kind of thing. Like
No, no. This is
you
like a
worked on it.
reorgan like yeah. Like I
Yeah.
just went looked at my budget. I haven't done that in a while. And I was
Right.
like, "Oh, why am I paying for this, this, and this?" That's almost like found money, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I actually am like I'm not using those things, cancel those subscriptions." And I'm like, "Okay, now I have this like little extra pocket of money." Um because I sat and I made my budget. You know what I mean? It's like I got
Yeah. Yeah.
organized. I like did
There's
my
the
budget. I like looked at it and I was like, "Oh, with all the things I have, I'm maybe investing or putting my money in places that I don't need to be,
yeah.
right? And kind of
Yeah.
like freeing up resources." Mhm.
I was just gonna say, as passive as the pentacles are, this night there's like I mean, there's an activeness component to it. So there's a do
Yeah,
component to it. Like you have to
do
do
something.
work in order to find the found money, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. In health, I don't really get this one for health a lot. This could be again, just because I read for a lot of people who are thinking like they're in the phase of like children and fertility
Yeah.
and what do
Yeah.
I want? So
Yeah.
there's always that component with it. So it could be just somebody who's coming in. But in health, it could also be there's this sense of like, I have the plans, and now I'm just going to consistently execute whatever regime
Yeah.
that's been given to me. Or if you're working with personal trainer, okay, now I have here's my 3-month plan for this. Now I'm going to go and just consistently like execute that. There's a follow through element when I'm thinking about health and this card. It
Yeah.
could also be like I think it's good news. But you're getting information, like you're being given something, right? Like because this night is like, here, I'm going to give you this thing. So to me, it's something, but it's a part of a greater whole. So it could
Hmm.
be like I'm giving something small that's going to have a greater impact to everything else that I'm doing.
For
That's
health, for me, this is like you're in it for the long haul, right? But it's putting the plan into action. So as you
yeah,
said, there's the doable,
yeah.
the do component of it. Hmm.
I'm gonna write that down. Anything else? Oh, and then relationship. Did we talk about relationship yet? I don't think so.
Yeah. So relationship, again, this is putting in the hard work into the relationship. This is
Mhm,
in terms of relationship with the knight, hard work, dependability. This is being there, showing up. Maybe this is buying a house,
mhm,
going through the motions of getting a mortgage, paying the bills.
mhm,
Um, Again, for the night, this is the actionable, doable component of things. Also, kind of keeping the thought of like resources, the tangible things in terms of like a house, a mortgage, a car.
mhm,
Dependability. He's riding a horse. This would be like, do you get a sports car or do you get a Toyota?
mhm. It's
um,
true. Sorry.
yeah, but in terms of relationship, this could be doing the action plan of doing the budget, doing the
Yeah.
action plan with your partner. This
What
could
are our
be,
long-term goals?
yeah,
Yeah.
what are our long-term goals? That's exactly it. Yeah.
Mhm. And this is like if you're speaking with somebody, um, this and they're like looking, this could be like they're reliable, dependable. They might not be the most passionate and the most like exciting, but they're going to be really consistent and they're going to be somebody that you can count on. And there is a physical element to the card, right? So it might be somebody who has more like a hands-on, like, right? Someone who like physical touch is their primary love language.
Right.
Um,
So for relationship, you know how people are like, oh, da 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 da, or and then the other side of it is like, what's your credit score?
yeah.
So this is, yeah, definitely someone coming into your life with a very good credit score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else for this card?
Um, No, no, I think that's about it. The other thing is on top of the horse's head. I know you were saying it was like flowers, but like or
Lettuce.
lettuce. But the horse has it as well.
So I know. It's almost so it depends, right? This is where it's like it depends on what source you go in because it almost looks like holly too, right?
Yeah,
Or like a mistletoe.
yeah,
That's on the horse. And this is like winter season. This is like Capricorn energy.
yeah.
And love, like because there is the lore of like, kissing under the mistletoe. It could be something like
Hmm.
that. Um, so let me just
I was
I
gonna
feel
say
like
a slow, steady romance.
yeah, I like that. But it's like things that are blooming, right? So
Hmm.
it's like it's blooming and it's starting to like show like in the summertime, right? We go from like things budding to now it's bloomed.
Yeah.
And I also if we're looking at finance, like as things bloom, they spread their seeds again, right? So it's
Hmm.
like you're appreciating like the beauty for what it is now in its lushness, but then it's also planting seeds for the future. I don't know, that might be a stretch, but they're leaves and it depends. Some people say like they're oak leaves or they're different types of trees. I don't know. I've
Yeah.
read like different things.
Yeah.
Um, but it's really solidity, right? It's like anything else? This one it says it looks like a cluster of oak leaves.
Yeah.
From acorns, great oaks come.
Yeah.
Mhm. I should put that on my. Anything else?
No. I was gonna say, in terms of like dependability, if you're single, it could be just that dependable person, someone who you want to plan to plant seeds with, aka family with,
Yeah.
roots with, kind of thing. So,
Yes.
um, yeah, it's
Yep.
gonna be like a no frills relationship, but it's gonna be like steady and dependable.
Hmm.
Yeah,
This is just an element, right? Like,
it's
because
just an element. Yeah,
yeah. Doesn't mean they're fully boring. It just
No.
But if someone's already always, been seeking the quick fling or the passion romance, like there has to have a
Yeah.
practical element. There has to be practicality, like to the relation in order for it to be long term, right? Because the pentacles are all long term. So if you want even career or health, like there are not the sexy things sometimes that you have to really establish in
Hmm.
order for things to like grow. So, all right. And our queen. So the Queen of Pentacles, now we've entered into a landscape where it's very lush, right? And from those like seeds to blooms, now things are like in fully, they're fully formed. And she is sitting, there's like this laurel behind her. And again, we come back, there's a cherub. Where's the cherub? I can't remember where the cherub is in this one.
There's the face is
Oh,
kind of behind her head a little bit
yeah,
on the
because there's
upper
a
part.
few. Yes.
Mm.
So
Oh,
there's
there's
the
a
cherub,
few.
which innocence and holy presence. Again, we have the fairies coming back here, being giving us like this whimsy, this magic element to it, this natural, also grounding element. There's the bulls, and that can represent like Taurus, its strength and stamina. There's also a rabbit here in the front
Mm.
right, and rabbits are high energy, fertility, and also the way that rabbits' eyes they can see in both directions. So there's this kind of like I have this full sometimes as you're learning, as you're growing, you can only see this much. And then this is
Right.
like the queen kind of sees everything in all directions. There are pears, which represent, again, fertility, longevity, and love. And this is when we start to see like the vines come in and they'll fully mature in the king, but they represent abundance, and things that take like careful, um, the right climate, and careful tending. Again, then we have the blue mountain representing that's the spiritual aspect
Mhm.
coming in. And it's almost as if she's like overcome these obstacles, right? Like she knows the highs and lows. There's all like a predictability to her. Um, yeah. And then she's wearing the red cloak, which represents passion, and then the green veil, which is that earthing element of it. So like passion grounded in stability,
Yeah.
almost like predictable.
Yeah.
There's a predictability to this card. Uh, those are the primary symbols. And whenever she comes up, I'm always happy to see her because there's a charitable nature to this card.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's nobility, and there's like opulence and this comfort. She's very resourceful and she makes the most of what she has around her. There's domestic harmony. We are now at the point of harvest, and there's a connection element because there's there's many figures in it, but they're like mystical, right? Like we have a
Hmm.
fairy, we have a cherub, we have a rabbit, we have a bull. Like so there's this connection to earth and to animals and this almost like primal nature to ourselves as well that I get when I pull this card sometimes. What about you?
I get, you know, definite grounding card with
Mhm.
this. I get comforting. At one point, I scribbled something down, and I have no idea what it says. Um, you do get kind of that nurturing component. There is that little bit of charity. And another card I have, she's giving the rabbit the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just being that nurturing in terms of like resources and finance. This person is a little bit more of like a giving kind of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I get for this.
Mm-hmm. So if this shows up in career, this is
Hmm.
you've matured in your career, you have stability, you're making maybe like your desired salary, um, or you're also just able to make your money, because I got kind of career and finance in the same thing. It's like there's a spectrum of like what people believe prosperity is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people, it could be a number, it could be a measure. But some people see prosperity as like with the lesson of the fool is I make the most of everything that I have in front of me. And that's what I see this as the queen is like she's making the most of everything that she has in front of you. There's an appreciation to it, there's a gratitude of it. And this is somebody this might be the person who is like an accountant or has a financial component of it, right? Like maybe they're the
Mm-hmm.
person who decides like who gets funding, who gets,
Yeah.
or this might be somebody who is in a financial role,
Yeah.
or there is some financial element to it. But overall, like somebody who's really reached a point of maturity in their career, stability, dependability. Um, and to me, it's like it benefits a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
because there is a collaborative element with all like the little mystical creatures
Yeah.
that are around her. Mhm.
For this one, I kind of get a little bit of like the teacher vibe, like
Mm,
somebody who's
mhm,
giving, um, establishing the minds of the young. This is
mhm,
also someone in terms of like that charitable component of it, who kind of creates that, the Christmas, what do they call it? Food drive. This
mhm,
is
mhm,
somebody who volunteers,
mhm,
maybe at the food bank. This is somebody who maybe is an accountant and will do taxes for free for other people.
mhm.
This is
That makes
someone
sense.
who, as a role model, is kind of, they want people to kind of remember their humble beginnings kind of thing. That's what I
Mhm,
get from this card is just reminding people about the charitable aspects of it. So this is someone who is a volunteer coach. This is someone
mhm,
who, you know, um, does the carpool,
mhm,
the food drive, the
mhm,
doing taxes for free for people, giving
mhm,
people free financial advice.
mhm.
I always kind of have to think of that like giving back component of it. This is
Me too.
someone who, thinking about fertility and I think I got it from you, the month of May, just kind of like
Mhm,
that, the renewal component
mhm,
of spring.
mhm,
Might be someone who is saving money for education or something
mhm.
like that. Again, not for them, but for other people, that nurturing component of it in terms of the finances. Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
In health, this is somebody who's like comfortable with their health.
Yeah.
Like this is somebody who like understands balance, and somebody who understands like mind body connection. I think we talked
Hmm.
about that before.
Hmm.
Health, this could indicate a pregnancy, or this could indicate an upcoming birth as well, because like she's holding the coin in her hand, and the rabbit also like represents fertility. Um, but there's an energy to it. So this is like a calm energy.
Hmm.
So like energy, like the Knight of Swords, right? He was like taking action. I'm like this is more like an internal energy
Yeah.
that there gives them calm. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I get a very spiritual aspect to this, to their health. So it's kind of like taking the physical, kind of mundane, I have to take care of my nutrition. I have to some type of movement, stretching, taking care of my mental health. And then it's like this is the spiritual component that's coming into it as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly. In terms of health, what do I get for this? This is somebody who is, um, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Okay.
I
What about for
agree.
relationships? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I
It's a
agree.
straightforward card. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. I find that a lot of the queens just kind of have that kind of like autonomy,
Hmm.
sovereignty, that kind of just that knowing, right? That kind of calm, peace, understood, knowing. Not nothing is really outward shining. It's more of an internal embodiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about for relationships?
For relationships, this to me is more of like more of like a nurturing relationship. So
Mhm.
this is someone who is overseeing and nurturing the growth of a relationship. It's the oversight of, making sure the needs and the basic necessities are there for a
Mhm.
family. So again, this could
Mhm.
be a mother or a father, or an older sibling, but somebody who's kind of watching out, making sure that the young ones grow, that
Mhm.
the needs of the household are met, that it, I would just say the overall needs are met, whatever
Yeah.
the needs are. If it's emotional, financial, food security, this is the person that kind of has the oversight to it.
Mhm.
Um, this is someone who is maybe helping nurture a partner who's had some
Mhm.
material, financial issues as well.
Mhm.
This is someone who, in your relationship, is the person who is, making sure that the lights stay on.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And this would be in a relation, like someone that you would go to like for financial advice or for
yeah.
financial counsel. There's a wisdom element to this card. If we're looking like this is somebody who's because it's the queen, right? So
Hmm.
there's been some life experience, and they have a lot of wisdom that they're able to
Hmm.
share. And then in terms of relationships as well, though, this is very much a card of like sensuality and there's a
Hmm.
physical nature to it. So people who have a very good they have a good sex life. I don't know how else to say that. Like, right,
Yeah,
there's the rabbit, there's the bull. We're getting a lot of those elements that we're seeing, and then but there's this sensual nature to it. So it's like you're physically cared for, you're emotionally cared for, right? In all of the aspects.
yeah. This
Um,
is the baby making card.
yes, it is the baby making card. The having fun.
Yeah.
Anything else for our earthly queen?
No, as I said before, for the Queen of Swords, people say that that's a very stern looking queen.
Hmm.
This one is a very like light gaze. She's got a very
Hmm.
light gaze to her. If
She still has authority. It's just
Yeah,
there's a softer element.
yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
All right. And last but not least, we have the king.
Hmm.
So there is so much in this card. So first and foremost, we have those bulls coming back. So, could represent Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn energy, bull energy. Um, there is, I'm just gonna go through my list. So his foot is actually on a boar here. So there's very much this nod to like a conquest and to like a feast if you think of like pigs on the
Hmm.
spit, right? Like this big community celebration. But it also is like mastery over instinct, and it's strength and courage. The wreath and the crown. So there's the crown and then there's a wreath and it represents victory. So it's
Hmm.
like victory on kind of like all levels. The grapes here. So now these vines that we saw growing, they've grown fruit, and those represent success and fruitfulness. There's the castle that's here in the background, which we actually haven't seen the castle in a while.
Hmm.
And so that represents like this nod to home, this element of protection. And then there is the scepter that the king is holding, which represents power and influence. And then he has the pentacle, the coin, and it's kind of like mastery over the physical things. But there's like four bowls, so even though it's like an earth, it also gives you like Aries energy, like authority and power and like um like I'm gonna bowl forward sometimes.
Yeah.
Um but that is the primary symbols in the king. It's powerful, enterprising, someone who's very
Mhm.
established. There's a protection, again, coming back, there's a protection or like a guardianship element to the card. There's someone, it's a practical leader, wise investor. This is the time of harvest, and there's harmony with the earth. There's balance and harmony. That's and understanding like the cycles of nature as well. And then underneath all of that green, right? So we still have that element of passion, whereas the queen was wearing the red cape. It's like this is more practically driven because the only kind
Mhm.
of red sash that we're seeing, it like looks like his scarf. So it's like the practical, mindful, and emotional things are overriding like that influence of passion. And then again, the golden card, the yellow in the background, success, victory, hope, like very good omens.
Yeah.
Always happy to see this king because whereas the King of Swords was like, could be authority and like, not in a positive way, like this is authority in a way that is more balanced. Does that make sense?
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. A
Mhm. Yeah.
grounded. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I get him, this king, as knowledgeable, right? So
Hmm.
somebody who, if this is the card of, um, career, money, health, that kind of thing, this, the ultimate component of it is just like that super knowledgeable person. Um, I do get, what else do I get from him? I also get solitary.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's looking kind of down to the side. He is holding his power, scepter, and he is, showing that he's got the wealth and the grapes all over him and fruitful harvest. And, he's
Hmm.
somebody who's able to make it all. He is in a garden by himself.
Yeah.
He is away from the community, the town that's there. And
Yeah.
so, for me, I just kind of get like solitary from this.
Yeah.
So if I were to jump into relationships, I would
Hmm.
say that, this person is very knowledgeable. They
Hmm.
have, found a comfort in health and wellness. But if this came up for, like romance, I would say you're going to be spending some time alone for a little while.
Yeah. I agree. Actually, I
Yeah.
agree. It's kind of like enjoy your alone time because this could be like someone who's done a lot of work on themselves
Yeah.
and they're like now just like really feeling like, oh, I'm feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
Mhm. In terms of relationships, this is someone who has like a plan. Like this is very much someone who has a plan and someone
Hmm.
who um like who values security. So this would be like, yes, okay, this might be someone who's single, but it's like this is someone who's very secure, right? And someone who's very grounded, maybe almost too grounded.
Yeah.
But somebody who might prioritize like we all have different, different things that we value in our life and in our relationships. And this might
Yeah.
be someone who's very career focused or very much an entrepreneur. And that is going to be something that might impact like your relationship.
Yeah.
Or someone who values like career and financial over other things in a relationship. If this person is in a partnership and this card comes up, I actually like to see that because it means that like you've created harmonious aspects in your relationships and you've probably like you're in a certain amount of material comfort,
Hmm.
um, physical comfort. But I do get like I agree with you in like the isolation element of this card. It might be just someone who's like um maybe they're guarded. I almost get like that they're guarded in the connection or in the relationship, um or they're prioritizing like other things over like the emotional aspects.
Hmm. Yeah. I also get somebody who, is aloof to emotions,
Yeah.
but very practical and knowledgeable in everything else, right? Like
Yeah.
the understanding of like romance just isn't, a part of them, but in terms of like, they have a house, they have a car, they have a bill, they have
Check,
friends,
check, check,
they
check,
have
check.
things
Yeah.
around them, but I think it just might be somebody who just doesn't quite fully understand romance. Not to say that they're maybe not capable of it, but just the kind of look that I have from this
Mhm.
king, it just means that like or maybe it's not their focus. Romance is not their focus.
It's almost as if it's like, which a lot of people do, is they have like a checklist, right? Of all
Yeah,
check, 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 check. And this is like relationship check. Like
yeah,
so, and that's okay because people come into all different types of partnerships and all different
right.
types of connections. But if someone is looking like, I want passionate love and like this is, and this comes up, I'd be like,
Yeah,
not, not the, yeah, this might be
you're
like
gonna
the
meet
on,
someone practical.
yes, yeah, which is good. But, and it's so funny because the queen has so much passionate energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it's like, and
Mm-hmm.
then the king has this almost like stoicness to him.
A
Um,
little bit, a little bit.
yeah,
Or maybe their love language is like gifts and not
yes,
physical
yes,
touch.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Whereas the queen for me, I mean, she's holding that, she's nurturing it. That is a little bit more, um, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to meet someone very practical, maybe a Virgo, maybe a Capricorn.
This gives me more Capricorn.
Yeah.
Or Virgo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Virgo, Capricorn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Taurus is more like spiritual and romantic. But anyways. Okay. Health. To me, this is like you're good. Like this is good health. But this also might be somebody who is a bit ignorant to outside influence, right? Or they've like, these are my this is how I, this is my health routine. These are all the things that I do.
Hmm.
But I think this is a good, I don't typically get this one for health a lot. But this is somebody who knows how to take care of their body, who knows what to do when something goes wrong. And they're very nurturing. It's just it's a different type of nurture, like this might be someone
Hmm.
who likes more of a schedule,
I
as
was going to
opposed
say
to
very
someone who's more,
regimented,
yeah, who's more cyclical and um
almost almost on the spectrum, kind of
yeah,
like
yeah,
regimented, like somebody who would get cranky if you
like a
tried to
Virgo.
change it up. Yes. Why did you move that there?
Yes.
Why did you add strawberries to my smoothie?
It's so true.
Yeah.
Anything,
Particular. This
yeah,
person is particular.
yes, yes,
Yes.
that's the right word. um Sorry. Okay, and then what about career?
Again, this is someone, oh man, this is someone who likes to keep everything with them. I don't want to say hoarder, but like this is somebody who like at the end of their day, you know, stacks their files and they like rejig their stapler and their pens and this is somebody who is very fastidious,
Mm,
someone who is particular, someone who does good work.
hmm.
Again, that work ethic component of it, that slow and steady component, very knowledgeable. Um, Somebody who does, I don't think this person wants to change their job.
No. Yeah.
So if this card came up, this is like you're staying there.
Yeah. Yes.
Um, you're yeah somebody who's very regimented, knowledgeable, very solitary in their work. This is not necessarily a job that would come up for a um, somebody who's got to go out and solicit things. This is somebody
Hmm.
who's very much in an office kind of job, somebody who
Hmm.
might have like the dean of something or the CEO of something, or
Hmm.
more of a recluse job, office, single office, not like a creative. We have ping pong and arcades and music blaring. This is a very I get very accountant with this.
Hmm. Someone,
Financial advisor,
yeah,
career with this. Yeah.
and someone who's like directing people. I
Hmm.
always used to joke like as my career grew corporately, I felt like the higher I got, I swear to God, like the less work I did. But the workload shifts, right?
Right.
Because I was so task based early in my career. And then
Yeah.
when I made it up to like upper management, I was more people brought me things and I helped make decisions and I directed people, but I
Yeah.
wasn't really caught up in like tasking or doing things. And that's what
Right.
I get when I get to this card is someone who's like, they're not doing mundane things. They're making like I'm making our annual plans. What's our 5-year plan? Like
Yeah.
they're more in that space,
Hmm.
um, as opposed to executing.
Right.
And this is a card of an entrepreneur as well.
Hmm.
This card typically comes up with somebody who is, wants to be their own boss,
Yeah.
or maybe they have to be their own boss.
Yeah.
But it is an card of entrepreneur if it comes up. But you're stable, like you have security, you have something that you feel good, right? It's a
Yeah.
feel good card.
Yeah.
It's not like those golden hand. It's like you actually enjoy the work that you're doing. You have a mastery of it. You're very good at it. You feel like you are able to do it for a long time. Um, and it's physically and financially very rewarding.
Hmm.
So career
Yeah.
wise, always a good one.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Protector and firm boundaries too. So, but I think we
I
already touched on
definitely
these.
see firm boundaries.
Yeah. When you were saying that, like the ice, I was like, yeah, that's the boundaries. All right. Anything else for our king?
No.
I think nothing else. All right. Anything else
Okay.
for the Pentacles suit as we talked about this court?
No, I think out of all of the suits, I think for me, the Pentacle Courts is the hardest.
Yeah.
Um, I think, I think I also said the Pentacles 1 to 10 was very hard. I mean, it's very,
Mm.
to me, they're very literal cards when you look
Like,
at them.
yes.
Whereas, like, when we talk about the swords for, I think, the courts and the ace through 10, there's just so much more that you can talk about. For the cups, I think there's going to be so much more that we can talk about. I think it's, and again, maybe it's just the context of it being like a little bit more grounded, a little bit more finance resources, tangible
Mhm.
things that you don't get to really go out too much on a limb. I do think the symbolism in it helps. I think once people can kind of understand that, um, I
Mhm.
think that's going to be helpful. Looking at the colors, understanding the yellow and all of the backgrounds.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
I agree.
and I'm curious to see how other people look at the court cards for the Pentacles. If there's anything else that they pick up on that they can share. You know, I think there sometimes can be, very subtle things, or like there
Oh
could be
yeah.
like a grand massive thing. So, going from the page where maybe they're quite subtle, I'd like to hear what people say about that. And then with that king, there's so much in there with the
There's so
black
much.
and the gray and the blue. And, um, you know, I had only ever seen three bulls. And so for me, I kind of got that going back to the Three of Pentacles. But then
Mhm.
when you said four, I was like, oh, there
But
is a
there's a
fourth
fun.
one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super curious to see and hear what other people have to say about these court cards, or the kind of outlook that they have on them in terms of like, are these external people? Are these, the querent? Is this
Mhm.
developmental kind of stages? Is it, um, yeah,
I
so many
agree.
different ways you could look at court cards.
I agree. And these
Yeah.
ones are just like layered. Like every time I look at them, like, oh, that's new. Oh, that's
Yeah.
new. Like
Yeah.
even with the like the lettuces, like, or
The
like the leaves.
lettuces.
I'm not- I know it's how it is, but I'm like, I like that. Like there's so
Yeah.
much whimsy, right? And play
Yeah.
with it. So yeah, I love that. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to stay up to date. And we will be finishing off the court and then into the major arcana very soon. So thanks, Jay.
You're welcome. Thank you.